What's the backstory, Annmarie, away from the pomp and circumstance with all your experience with this White House? What's the backstory you observe?
I think what's very telling, Tom, is that during the bilateral meeting, and I was at the Great Hall of the People, I have to say you feel very small being there, just how enormous this hall is. And at one point you could see Xi Jinping pointing to President Trump towards Tiananmen Square in the Forbidden City, where he actually brought the president and his visit in 2017 to dine. But what was really telling was while the bilateral meeting was taking place, and it was held for more than 2 hours, China's state TV and press pushed out a readout saying that Xi Jinping talked about Taiwan and how this relationship cannot be mishandled or could lead to clash and a dangerous situation between the United States and China. Then, hours later, we get the White House readout, and it talks about how China is going to increase potentially agricultural purchases, energy purchases, how they discussed Iran and how China agrees that the Strait of Hormuz should not be militarized, how Xi Jinping agrees that there shouldn't be a toll, not a single mention of Taiwan. So that is where things get a little bit tense and complicated, clearly, for this relationship. This White House wants to focus on purchasing agreements, on deals, and for China, especially for their domestic audience, they want to send a signal on Taiwan.
Annmarie, I'm so glad you kind of presented that focus of the readouts of each of the countries. Does that suggest that this is more pomp and circumstance than any definitive trade negotiation or diplomatic negotiations that could result in any meaningful announcements here?
Well, it's definitely a step forward. I mean, can you imagine you'd see Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump both holding up glasses of champagne and giving a toast? A little more than a year ago, we were in really the depths of the tit-for-tat trade war with export controls, with sky-high tariffs, with the Chinese coming back at the negotiating table, really having a chokehold on rare earths. I don't think so. But at the same time, I think what this shows is that the United States doesn't want to be talking about Taiwan and upsetting the apple cart while they are in China. I think what's going to be very telling is what does the president say and what does the president do when he goes back to Washington? There was an $11 billion record sales in terms of arms sales to Taiwan that was signed off in December. Now, remember, Taiwan is still getting a lot of these arms that actually get to Taiwan are years delayed, but there was in December a massive package. There's another package that's in the docket. It is not unprecedented for any administration to hold off on signing through and greenlighting another arms sale ahead of a massive meeting with their Chinese counterpart, because they do not want to create awkward dynamics and they want to make sure they have a successful meeting. But what is going to be telling is what happens when the president gets back to Washington, because what does he have in just a few months' time? He just announced another face-to-face meeting with Xi Jinping in September at the White House.
Annmarie, I know you got to go. You got to stake out the McDonald's by the Forbidden City, because that's where the president's going to wrap up after the state dinner. Annmarie, as simple as I can, as you mentioned Taiwan, the president has to come home and confront the likes of Senator Graham of the Carolinas. Is Lindsey Graham over at that state dinner, even though he's not?
Well, I mean, you could say that a number of senators, Democrat and Republicans, already voiced their concerns before the president left for China. And I think Secretary of State Marco Rubio, remember twice sanctioned by the Chinese when he was a senator, has made it clear that their position, in just an interview with NBC News, their position on Taiwan has not changed, and said that they didn't really focus on arms sales. We obviously know the Chinese side is going to bring this up. So I think it's going to be very telling what the president does when he's back in D.C.